Hi, I'm Euge Valovirta, and this one is about how I recorded, mixed and mastered The Bad Boy, the first single from my forthcoming solo album Shooting from the Hip, and how I record, mix and master stuff in general. Okay, the gear I used. My signature ESP with EMG 81, 85 pickups. That was the only guitar I used on the song. Then the signal goes through my pedal board, where I have this G-Lab looper, which lets me bypass any pedals that I'm not using, or bypass all pedals, like when I record bass. Then the signal goes into radial J48 active DI box, which is located back there. You can see it. The main function of that is that it splits the signal, the throughout signal, to this KHE audio electronics amp switcher, and then it goes to separate amps and back to this KHE. From this, the signal goes to whatever amp I'm using, to a SIR reactive load, where I mostly use my signature IR Valovirtuos from Jens Bogren's Lead and Clean pack. The IR works on everything, not just leads and cleans. And from the SIR, the signal goes to Steinberg audio interface, and from the audio interface via USB cable to my computer and to Cubase, which is my DAW. Okay, that was the throughout signal. Then the balanced signal goes to here, to Steinberg audio interface, and I use that to record bass. I could record also a DI signal with guitar, but I don't really do that. I just record the amp like old school way. The bass I used Tokai, really good bass. Seymour Duncan pickups, no idea what pickups they are. This feels good and sounds great. Awesome bass. So this goes, the same cable goes through the same pedal board, but like I said, I can bypass everything, so it's basically like not on. The reason why is that I don't have to, change cables, unplug anything. I can just, switch bass, guitar, whatever. Then the signal goes, so it goes also to the amps. So when I record bass, I put my amps on standby or turn them off. But if I want, I could record the bass via guitar amps. Plexi is actually really good for bass, because it was designed as a guitar and bass amp. But I didn't use that on this song and on the album. So then the signal goes to this, the audio interface, the DI signal, and then via the same USB cable to Cubase. So the DI box is just there to split the signal. Cool. And then next, let's go to the screen and I will show you what I did there. Here we are on the screen, and let's go through piece by piece what I did. First, let's listen to the song a bit, so you know what's going on. So that's the song. If you're interested, please check out the song from Spotify, Apple Music, all streaming services, and I did a playthrough video of it. I'll put a link in the description below. So let's start with the drums. I'm gonna bypass these all. So now nothing is on the drum bus, and the drums sound like this. So what I used Toontrack's Superior Drummer 3. This is absolutely fantastic. I mean, it sounds like a real drummer, because it is basically, because these beats were played by real drummers and you can edit them the way you like. So what I did, let's go to the mixer. I have this preset of mine called EV Man of Sand. This is basically a tweaked version of Superior Drummer's, core library's Man of Sand drum preset, which is kind of like Lars Ulrich's sound on Metallica's Black Album. I did a little tweaking here and there. I added the China in there, and I don't remember now what I did, but if I remember correct, I lowered the kick a little bit, lowered the kick sub so it's barely on, because the kick drum was massive. And it sounded really good on its own, but in the mix it was a bit too much. So this is basically a drum mixer. So here's all the drum channels, you can tweak them. There's your standard EQ, toms. You want to usually cut the mids, add highs to make them really... I didn't touch any of these, they have thought this out, it sounded great. The only thing I did, I did a little bit, I guess, EQing and volume thing with the kick, but that's about it. How I created these beats. I have quite a few of their beat libraries. There's hundreds, thousands of beats, but what I did is I basically recorded a really simple track. Let's say this part. So I used the keyboards. It's a really simple beat, and then I recorded that, and then I dragged the part here on this MIDI drop zone. And then it suggests, so then I choose like a hi-hat open, whatever I preferred, and then it suggests me beats from these libraries I have, what is closest. Then when I found the closest one, I dragged it to here, and there is an editor in here, but I really love the Cubase's own editor. So then the beat was here, what they suggested. And then I edited it here. Sometimes I added kicks, sometimes I removed something. Maybe the feel wasn't what I was looking for, so then I just, removed these the way I like them. And as you can see, none of them aren't exactly on the grid. Because if everything's on the grid, it sounds like machine. Human is not a machine. So that's why, at least in my opinion, it sounds so real, because it's, well, the beats, they were played by different drummers for Toontrack's SD3 program. So this is basically kind of like having a real drummer. I don't remember, I think John Tempesta, I think I ended up using lots of the Superior drummer suggested lots of his beats. So in a way, Tempesta is playing on this song. But then I just edited everything to what I wanted the drums to be. This is absolutely fantastic, this Cubase's drum editing software. The Superior Drummer 3 has a quite similar, so if you don't have Cubase, you can use that, but I've been using this Cubase so much that I'm so familiar with this, so I use this editor to edit the drums. Okay, so now the drums, they sound pretty cool. What I did there, so this is kind of the drum bus where the whole mix is coming from the SD3. I added some EQ. Softube plugins are absolutely fantastic. They're like basically having the real deal. So what I did, because again, this is mix. It's not, the drums, they sound good as like alone, but to fit better in the mix, what I did. So I added this drum EQ in there. Let's listen what it does. So now it's on. Now I bypass it and then I put it on. As you can hear, well, the preset says EV more highs. So I cut it the lows, because still I felt the kick drum was a little bit. So the lows are cut 12 dB, around 60 Hertz, and a little bit mids, and then I added some highs to make it really. So that's the EQ thing. Then another Softube plugin called Tape. Okay, let's listen to the drums and what the tape does. Now it's bypassed. As you can hear, it's add this nice tape saturation and compression and certain warmth to the drums. Then the third plugin I have, another Softube, Drum Room, because this sounds really cool, good now, but I wanted to have the feeling that the listener and I would actually be in the room with the drums, like so. I did this. And it actually widens the drums too. I use the same reverb on guitars as well. We'll get into that soon. So that's the drums. And yeah, I forgot to mention that when I start to mix, this is the first thing that I put on. It's a Chris Allschwil, really famous American mixer, sound engineer. This is basically his mix bus plugins. So there's basically like EQ, which you can tweak, glue, it's a compressor, and there's two options. I guess these are, because I think he uses SSL mixing desk. So these are probably, because there's two SSL desks, E and G. So I think you can switch between them, because you could use this also on like on individual tracks. And then a drive, it just adds saturation. So let me just demonstrate this. Let's listen the whole mix. First without. So it just makes everything sound better. This is the basic setup. Chris, I watched the Chris video, he said that this is the basic. There's different options, but this is kind of what he uses or would use if, I don't think he uses this plugin, I guess he uses, you know, real gear, but this is a plugin of his mix bus, like chain. Fantastic. So this is the first thing I put, and I mix into this. Okay, so now that's on. Then bass. Let's bypass everything. So I recorded a DI. Joey Sturgis Jones Hellraiser. I've used this most of my videos, or the Rex Brown. This is fantastic. So this is kind of my own preset, which is based on a Hefty Clank preset of Joey's. So what's going on there? There's a little bit of fuzz in front, not much. Then, as you can see, lots of treble, lots of clank, a little bit sub. Let me demonstrate what this do. The sub adds just a tiny amount of some, something. And then cabinet, it's a matched cap, Joe has thought. And then EQ, these are, well, there's a little bit going on, like a small boost around 93 and 107 dB cut and 111 something. And not much. And there's a limiting and small amount of compression. So the limiting is on the lows and the compression on the highs, but I didn't touch any of these. Well, the only thing I did, I increased the mids and then matched the input and output levels for my bass. Other than that, it's this hefty clank. Yeah. Okay, then the other thing I did, SSL channel, I cut it just a little bit, like low cut and high cut. So it doesn't do much. And then this is an analog, so it kind of adds SSL analog mojo. So let's listen. It's hardly audible, but it makes me comfortable to know that there's SSL channel strip in there. And, just because you don't really, or at least I didn't feel the need to have these really lows, because, if everything has a lot of that low ends, then your mix suddenly sounds like. I wanted to, have clarity and certain openness that you can actually hear all the instruments and stuff and not be just, bass frequencies. So that's it. All compression, gate, everything else is bypassed. These are on 0, only low and high cut, and the analog switch on. Okay, then, this sounds really good now. But I wanted to bring it, a little bit punch and smooth it out. So the third thing I ended up using was this Toontrack plugin called Easy Mix. And there's a Randy Staubs. He and Bob Rock engineered, Mötley Crue's Dr. Feelgood and Metallica's Black Album and so on and mixed. So I thought, well, if this is good for Randy, it must be good for me. So let's listen what this does. It kind of enhances the peak attack, and that's like, it's like not smoother, but even. I think it's the correct word. Many times I've used Softube's channeler compression, but I just thought that on this one, this was the one I used. And what there is going on is basically only compression, and you can tweak these if you want the ratios. I didn't touch anything, Okay, so that's drums and bass. Okay, then guitars. There's not much going on, because I believe that if you play well, you have a good guitar, you have a good amp, good cabinet mic with good microphones, or good reactive load with good impulse response, you don't really need to do anything else. So, 2 rhythm guitars. I used the Bad Boy, boosted with SD1. That was it. Hard left, hard right. Sometimes I use another amp, and I actually tried. As you can see, the guitar left, this is the first take that I actually did. There's some cuts, because in the mix I decided to mute the rhythm guitars behind the solo, and I guess I tried something different here, but whatever. But basically it's the first take. And on the second guitar part, there's several takes, because I tried to pair it with different amps, but at the end I ended up using the Bad Boy. So it's exactly the same sound on left and right. And what I have there, again, the SSL channel strip, and I have the same low cut and high cut, because it sounded great alone, but in the mix, because there's bass, there's kick, and there's hi-hats and snares on the highs, so I felt that just a tiny amount of cut, because in a mix, at least what I try to do, I try to find place for everything, like volume-wise, and then picture-wise, like, you know, panned-wise, but also EQ-wise, so that they all should fall into their own spots on those 3 strings, 3 things: volume, panning, frequencies. So I just cut it out a little bit. That's all I did. So let's listen. The left guitar doesn't do much. Okay, then both guitars go to this rhythm guitar bus. And what I have there is this, because these are mono channels, the left and right. This bus channel is stereo. So I have there the same reverb I used with drums, and it's barely on. It just makes, well, it glues the guitars together, kind of. So let's listen. First, bypassed. It kind of glues them together, maybe makes it a little bit more wider, and I don't know if this is just my thinking, but since it's the same reverb but then on drums, you know, it's kind of, you know, because I wanted to have that feel that the band is playing in the room and you're listening, although it's just me, but you know. So that's it. And then usually I don't do any EQing, because I tweak the sound that it's good there. But when I was mixing, there was something that was kind of like bugging me in the overall mix, certain frequency. Let's actually mute. Let's solo the rhythm guitar and bass, and you hear what I mean. It's barely audible, but there was this certain hunkiness, which I love about the amp, but it was a little bit bugging me a little bit. So what I did is I just let's put this in the beginning. How I did this, it's like this. These are actually nasty too, but it's part of the charm, it's part of the 800. That, you know, when you peak hard, that was kind of like, man, and then I just cut that out. just a little bit. So if you listen to the guitars on their own, very, very small. So that's the only EQ I did. Okay, so that's the guitars. Yeah, keep it simple. Okay, then what else we have there? So that was the rhythm guitars. Pad hard left and right, the bad boy. Lead guitar is the bad boy, exact same sound, and let's listen to the solo. So what I have going on there, same SSL, same low and high cut, nothing else. And instead of the reverb, I have this, what I've used on many of my YouTube videos. Because again, this is a stereo track, this bass track. These are set to stereo, so let's listen what it does. So that's this stereo delay thing, ding ding, kind of like, you know, what Van Halen did. And with the reverb and a little bit micro pitch, it just makes it like wider and deeper. Really love this. I use this on many other songs, the same preset I did. So that's it. And then let me show you, because I have there a little bit EQ, and let me show you why. Let's put this on and just the drums and guitar, lead guitar. Because it's up the neck, it's really high, and the hi-hat has this. So this is like a high cut on 10,000 hertz, because the SSL channel high cut was 12,000, but I felt that it's kind of clashing a little bit with the hi-hat, so I just added this. It doesn't do much, but it's just like, I don't know, maybe it's just my ears, but it's very, very subtle change. But I just felt that when because I mixed using the Sennheiser HD 650, and also I used the general speakers. But whenever I was listening with these, because I really like to mix with good headphones. These are fantastic, really flat response, so you can actually hear everything. With the headphones, it was a little bit like. Then I just added that. That did the job. Other than that, it's the same sound and then rhythm guitars and everything. Nothing has changed. SD1 into bad boy. So, and then I used another amp. I used the Zag Wild head. There. It's really close because it has the same 6550 tubes, but it's like the earlier, like JMP, because it's vertical inputs. This is horizontal. This has only 4 filter caps, this one has 6, so it's a little bit smoother sounding. So I actually used it on these harmony leads. So let's listen these, what happens going on there. Again, it's the same as a channel, same high cut, low cut, and the same preset I used on the lead guitar, this one. But let me show you, because these harmonies I recorded with the bad boy, the 84, and well, you can hear it has a little more highs. So these are really close, but the 84 has that, which I love, but I just wanted it to be a little bit smoother, and I didn't want to mess with any EQ, change any IRs, because you know I have several amps. Why not to use them? So I just used the Zakk Wildhead on these harmonies and on these wah guitars also. The same effect chain, the same low cut, high cut. So really simple guitar-wise. And yeah, well, drums and bass has a bit more because I recorded DI and stuff, but you know, great amps, great guitars. I consider myself to be a, you know, pretty good player too, so there's not much you need to do about it. And then they all go to this mix bus. And why is that? Because I want to keep the main stereo out to 0. So they go to this, and then I can control that because I mix this so that the levels are around -18 LUFS. And immediately it went over. So that's that. So that's why the mix bus, so I can control the levels that they are there. And then mastering. This is like, I'm a little bit ashamed how little I did. Thank God to modern technology and Toontrack. I have this here, Easy Mix 2, and this is from the first mastering package. It's called half-inch tape master. So there's compressor, EQ and tape, which adds saturation and whatnot. So these packages, I think they were done at Cutting Room, what really famous, good Swedish mastering studio. I think they've mastered some albums that I played on. So these are their mastering engineers, like presets they created for Toontrack. And I just went through them, and I really liked what this half-inch tape master did to my overall mix. I know that usually you master, it's advised to bounce the mix to a stereo track and then master it, but I just put this in there. I was going to do that, and I was like, well, it works, so I don't find the need to bounce the track and whatever. So I just did the master in the same mixing session. The levels are going to be quite a lot louder now, so bear with me. Let's see what happens. Okay, let's put the track in the beginning. As you can see what it does, it's around -14 LUFS, because that's kind of the go-to standard nowadays where the streaming services, Spotify, Apple Music, the levels that they would like to have. So that's -14. I didn't touch any of the knobs. You can dial drive and tape speed, but there's other. Let me show you a couple of these were what I bounced between, but I ended up using this. So. Probably you could hear the metal master adds more highs and cuts the lows a little bit, but I just love the kind of the warm vibe of this half-inch tape master. Some might call that cheating, but I don't care. If it sounds good, it's good. And why make things harder for you when you can make them really easy with modern technology? So that was it. 3 or 4 things that I look. First, the levels. Then the panning, as you can see, there's different pannings. Rhythm guitars are panned hard left, hard right. The melody guitars, well, they are all panned 60 left, 60 right. No stereo picture. The lead guitar is in the middle, but because it's a stereo channel, it has the stereo effect. It feels like it's kind of like swirling around a little bit. So that's the second thing. The third thing, if I feel that I can't find it to sit in the mix or something is bothering me, then it's the EQ. Well, the only it's this minus 2 dB on 12K on the rhythm guitars, and the high and low cuts on everything, drums, bass, because I want it to have like air. You know, some people like really lots of like low end, but well, for this song and actually the whole album, I just felt that making the cuts at 60 and 12 for guitars and bass did the job what I was looking for. And then if those three things doesn't help, then a compression. So what I did with the bass, I added this compression, and obviously this has the overall compression because everything goes to this mix bus. So this is the final thing, but also the first thing because I mix into this. And then the mastering was the last thing. But you want to make, at least I want to make sure that everything sounds really good without any mastering things. And then that's just the final touch. Hopefully you found this interesting and informative. And I don't consider myself as a professional mixing engineer. I'm a professional guitar player, bass player. But in a way I kind of am, because this was actually the first song I recorded and the first song I mixed. So this is my first ever commercially released mix. So I guess I am now also a professional mixing engineer now. Keep things simple. It all starts, in my opinion, the sound what you record, how you play, has to be good. Because you really can't, or I can't, with my mixing skills, I can't make a pile of scheisse into a tasty chocolate cake. But I can make a tasty chocolate cake even more tastier. Thanks for watching. If you like this, thumbs up, subscribe. You know the drill. See you next time. Bye.